The history of Western music, it's so much more than just a timeline of composers. It's really a sonic mirror of civilization itself. Every single chord, every melody, every rebellion in sound tells the story of how we saw the world, from theology and politics to philosophy and war. And believe it or not, this long, winding story connects the medieval church directly to the thunderous riffs of heavy metal.
Have you ever actually stopped to wonder about that? Why do certain combinations of notes just feel like coming home, while other combinations feel tense, like they're hanging in the air, unfinished? We usually focus on the how of music, but today we're going to dig into the why. Why did our harmony evolve the way it did? Well, the answer starts centuries and centuries ago. And here's the other big question, the one that gets us to our title. What on earth connects the raw fury of a distorted guitar to the complex, almost mathematical beauty of a Bach fugue? I know it seems completely impossible, but as you're about to see, they're really just two different branches of the same family tree, and the roots go deep into the soil of history.
Okay, our journey kicks off in the High Middle Ages. So forget about complex harmonies for a second. I want you to imagine walking into a cold stone monastery. The sound you hear is Gregorian Chant, and it was designed with a very, very specific purpose in mind. That sound you were just imagining? It's called monophony. Now, to our modern ears, it might sound, well, pretty simple. But that simplicity was a powerful theological statement. See, in a world that was defined by one God and one church, a single, unaccompanied melody represented that singular, indivisible truth. To add another voice was to risk introducing conflict, difference, maybe even heresy.
But this wasn't just about theology. It was absolutely about power. Originally, this music was just passed down orally. But as the Holy Roman Empire started to expand, it needed to unify its liturgy. I mean, you couldn't have folks in Paris singing a totally different mass than people in Rome. This political problem led to one of the most important inventions in music history, notation. It turned a fleeting, airy performance into a fixed object, something that could be standardized, copied, and controlled. All right, let's jump forward to the 12th century, because this is where a massive shift begins. Just as architecture was literally reaching for the heavens with these incredible new structures, music started to do the exact same thing. Suddenly, complexity wasn't heresy anymore, it was a tribute. Just picture the great Gothic cathedrals for a moment. You've got architects using complex math to build structures that just soared towards the sky, filled with light and these unbelievable intricate details. They were monuments to the glory of God, built out of stone. And in music, you see a direct parallel. It's amazing. In Paris, at the School of Notre Dame, composers like Léonin and Perrotin started adding new voices on top of the old chants. They were creating something called organum, which was the very beginning of polyphony. They were building sonic structures that were every bit as complex and awe-inspiring as the cathedrals they were being sung in.
Let's just break this analogy down a bit, because it's pretty cool. The original chant, which was called the tenor, was stretched out into these long foundational notes. That was the stone foundation of faith, right? Unshakable. Then, above it, new, faster melodies were woven together, just like stained glass and soaring arches. This wasn't just pretty music, it was scholasticism in sound, a way to reconcile unwavering faith with complex, intricate human reason.
Okay, fast forward to the 16th century, and Europe is in total turmoil. The Protestant Reformation splits the church, and guess what? It splits the world of music right down the middle too. It creates this huge battle of musical ideologies that honestly, we can still hear today.
This whole schism created two completely different philosophies of what music should do. On one side, you got Martin Luther. He looked at that super complex Catholic polyphony and thought, this is exclusionary. The common person can't be a part of this. His solution? The chorale. Simple, catchy melodies sung in the local language that everybody could sing together. His focus was horizontal. It was all about the melody that unites the people. On the other side, the Catholic Church doubles down with the refined, transcendent polyphony of composers like Palestrina. This stuff was vertical, focused on these rich, dense harmonies, and it was sung by professionals to create a sense of divine mystery and awe.
So, around the year 1600, the single biggest shift in the entire history of Western music happens. We leave behind the old world of church modes and enter the era of tonality. That's the system of major and minor keys that has dominated music ever since. We're talking from Mozart all the way to Taylor Swift.
Think of tonality like a solar system. It's the best way to get it. The tonic, which is the root note of the key, is the sun. Every other chord has a gravitational pull towards it. So the dominant chord, for example, creates this incredible tension that your brain just needs to hear resolve back to that tonic. That's the source of that resolved, coming home feeling we talked about at the very beginning.
And this new system wasn't an accident. It was a perfect mirror of the world it was born into. This was the age of absolutism, right? So just like a king was the absolute center of the state, the tonic was the absolute ruler of the key. It was also the age of the scientific revolution, where people started to see the universe as this rational, predictable machine. And tonality works the same way. It follows these clear, predictable laws of cause and effect.
But of course, predictable, rational worlds don't last forever. As we head into the 19th century, the focus shifts away from the logical universe and turns inward to the messy, emotional inner world of the individual. In that perfectly ordered solar system of tonality, well, it began to crack.
And this is the sound of that crack. In his opera Tristan and Isolde, Richard Wagner wrote this now famous chord. So what made it so revolutionary? It was a dissonant, super tense chord that just didn't resolve. It moved to another dissonance and then another one. It was the sound of pure, unfulfilled longing. We're talking decades before Freud, and Wagner was already putting the subconscious right there on the stage.
This was really just the beginning of the end. That clear hierarchy of tonality was dissolving into this sea of chromatic uncertainty. The absolute monarch of the key, the tonic, was losing his grip on power. The whole system was becoming unstable.
So by the early 20th century, as the old empires of Europe are stumbling towards total collapse, the composer Arnold Schoenberg takes the final, radical step. He basically looked at all the chaos and decided to formalize it. He declared that dissonance no longer needed to serve consonants. It was free. The result was atonality, a system with no sun, no king, no home base. All 12 notes were finally created equal. Now, to a lot of people, this music sounds anxious, chaotic, totally fragmented, and that was exactly the point. It was the honest soundtrack to a fragmented world, a world of trench warfare and existential dread. Art was mirroring a very traumatic life.
And this brings us full circle, this long, incredible history of organizing sound. From total unity to complex harmony to its eventual collapse, it didn't just end with Schoenberg. Oh no. It echoed into the future, and it found a new and much, much louder home.
Emerging from post-industrial, working-class England, you had bands like Black Sabbath, and they used volume, distortion, and a famously dissonant interval known as the tritone, which, by the way, the church once called the devil's interval, to express a whole new kind of alienation. Just like the modernists, they embraced dissonance, but they did it through sheer power and timbre, creating a powerful new rebellion in sound.
And this is where that surprising connection finally clicks into place. Metal, in a lot of ways, just appropriated the tools of the old masters. The insane virtuosity of a Baroque violinist, the complex interweaving melodies of Bach's counterpoint, the massive emphasis on sheer technical skill. It's all there. In this really strange twist of history, the rebellion ended up using the language of the old order. And think about this. Just like Gregorian Chant unified a congregation, the wall of sound in a metal concert creates a powerful, communal, almost religious experience.
So when you look back, you see this incredible story unfold. Music has been the sound of faith in a unified cosmos. It's been the sound of reason in a clockwork universe. It then became the sound of individual emotion, the sound of collective trauma, and finally, the sound of rebellion.
And that leaves us with one final question to think about. Today, right now, we live in a digital, globalized, and, let's face it, often polarized world. Our tools aren't just pen and paper anymore. There are AI and digital audio workstations. So what is the soundtrack to our era? What does the music we're all making and listening to right now really say about who we are?